Welcome to the show. I'm Ivory LaNoue, and this is Reynolds. We are the Sedona Soul Sisters, and today's topic is going to be paranormal events on the rise. Before we begin, I want to say hello to our listeners in Phoenix, Arizona. You are always top of the list, number of people listening. Thank you for being so supportive. Our neighbors to the south. I know we have many clients in your area, and maybe that's who's listening, but we're just so glad to know that you're supporting the show. Thank you. Roz and I decided we needed to do this topic because, Roz deals with this all the time. I started dealing with it back in the 80s, and still clients coming recently, particularly, it's increasing more and more, where not so much that they're saying, I think I'm going crazy, but more like, I don't know what's happening. I don't understand what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing. You know, can you hear me, Raz?
I can hear you.
Okay. And I know barely. I'm not alone. I know you see this a lot too, more than me.
It's a weird, I don't know what's happening with Zoom today, but it is doing some really strange things.
Well, we are talking about paranormal events on the rise, so maybe it's something trying to say, and here's an example.
I
do know.
Laughing last night when I was getting, thinking about paranormal events and thinking about my life and some of the truly bizarre things that have gone on. And I love to watch on YouTube all the different people that go out all over the world and record using their cameras paranormal events in different locations. And I just was thinking about it and laughing because you and I can be in our bedroom and have some crazy paranormal
That's
things
where
going
I have a lot of it. Yes. just last night was another example. But I was thinking about, I was with a brand new client. I had come into the office and I was using Terry Ann's old office just for that day. And I'm in the middle of doing a reading with this nice lady, and we're not talking about anything paranormal. We were doing a psychic reading, and boom, this thing opens up between us, like just down and to the left, that was about 4 feet, 3.5 feet, 4 foot long, white lightning. And it rose about 3 feet high, and it was about 4 inches wide. And it was like white horizontal lightning that just flashed up and then like went away. And I'm like, what was that? And she didn't see it. You know how this goes, Roz, like your frequency has to be at a certain place before you see certain things, and it changes as your frequency changes. And I've seen that in Terry Ann's office before, and I've seen it in my office 3 times, that same white lightning, whatever that is. I think it might be an astral being. I'm not sure. But it's just like, it's disconcerting when you're trying to have a reading with somebody and it's like, hello, gone.
It's truly amazing. Really. I really, now that I'm actually finally writing about this, it's just really started to make it evident to me how strange and utterly bizarre some of the things are that go on. And I don't have so much just like entities, beings making appearances and trying to talk to me, coming up and touching me when I'm in a location, and I'm thinking, no, don't touch. But it is truly interesting. And I feel like a lot of people experience these things. They don't realize what's going on and they freak out. They just become overwhelmed with fear.
I remember, I don't want to focus a lot on the past because it's more about what's going on now, but I do remember back in the 80s, 83 into 84, when I suddenly started having these astral beings coming into my room every night, and I was terrified. I had no idea what that was. That was my, I think I'm going crazy. And I told you I ended up going to a counselor at the facility. I ended up working like and moving ahead in management. And she's like, you're not crazy. You're seeing astral beings. I've seen things like that too. And so it can make you feel crazy because it's so far out of the ordinary. But it seems like, you were talking about how we experience so much of this in our room. We don't even have to go anywhere. It's not like we need to go seek haunted houses to have this happen. But more and more at night, even with the boundary I set that spirits are not allowed to be in my room. They're not allowed to touch me when I'm trying to sleep. They're not allowed to be in my bathroom. Here's what's happening. Tapping me hard on the shoulder or on the upper back. The other night, it literally felt like somebody pulled a bra strap out really far and let it snap, and it woke me up out of a dead sleep. And I thought, what the heck? And then I'm like, hey, I'm not wearing a bra. I'm in bed trying to sleep. So something like smacked me hard. And then the stuff like sitting on the edge of the bed, and like the bed bounces and I'm the only one in it. And like just kicking it, like they get mad. Some of these spirits are mad. They don't want they're like humans who don't want boundaries. Maybe they are narcissistic spirits because they don't respect boundaries, but they're being really awful and just trying to wake me up continuously through the night every time I almost fall asleep. And I have to finally get up and do a big blasting, and then everything's fine for the rest of the night. But it's happening more and more. And that's, I don't know what to do about that. When you have disrespectful spirits, that's really, really annoying and really disruptive to sleep.
I don't know. I just think that if you kind of develop sort of a non-reactive mode to a lot of this stuff, and you're just observing, you're the observer, you're not really feeling anything, you're not allowing any emotion to come through, of course, says the person who finally gets mad and goes, would you knock it off?
That's exactly it. We all have our limit. It's like, I'm cranky because I'm not getting enough sleep.
But it's really funny. And a lot of the things that I see now being filmed, they're so I would say geared to be spooky, when it's in a film genre. So that doesn't even kind of like come into play with the sorts of things that went on, especially when I was a kid. My closet door, I could hear my closet door open, and I would look over at my closet door, and here would be, a shadow person or someone just deciding to come in. I mean, who decided that my closet was going to be your portal? Excuse me.
Roz, who decided that every closet I've ever had would be a portal?
Yeah.
There's
And it's
something
funny
about them.
because one of my sons moved into a very, very old, very haunted house in one of the cities he was living in. And he called me up one day and he goes, Mom, these people are just coming in and out through the closet. I mean, we got to get rid of these people. They're making me crazy.
He's got a Grand Central Station going in there.
We got to block that opening. And this is an important thing, for people to realize, is that these things are all going on. If those things are all happening around you, if you're living in a highly charged environment and you have entities, being spirits coming in and out, you got to kind of take charge of that. You really do have to step into your power, elevate your frequency, get yourself into a situation where you can refuse to have them be allowed to come through. Because otherwise, just, it's too much. It makes you nuts.
Yeah, I remember when I didn't know I could set boundaries with spirits and entities, and so I was just not sleeping much at all on a regular basis, on and on for years. I didn't know. I just thought I didn't know, really even understand what was going on back then. But for people now, it's like there's so many more shows out there. Like they watch things on Gaia, they see things on TikTok, on Instagram videos where people are talking about these things, and I'm glad they are. Sometimes it's sensationalized and kind of Hollywood varnish to it, which isn't helpful. But the fact is that pretty much most of the things that you've seen in movies can happen in real life, have happened in real life. It's just maybe not quite as dramatic, or there's some effects added to it. It's like, it seems like we're so desensitized to violence and gore and horror that Hollywood thinks they have to keep upping the ante. And that's when they got away from the reality. But a lot of the stuff that they show is true. I mean, I think about your client you had who was dangled in midair. And that wasn't a possession, right?
It's
What was,
interesting.
what was going on with that?
It's a situation a lot of times where an entity, this is not a demonic entity. It's just an entity. It's just a being decides to attach. And I hear more about this actually than I used to when I do watch some of these paranormal tapes, videotapes, etc., where people talk about, well, I was investigating, I saw one last night, I was investigating a cemetery. And then I heard someone following me, I heard voices, etc., etc. Then on the video, it actually showed the back end of this guy's car opening up, the light comes on, the door shuts. He gets in his car, goes home, never looks, never checks his vehicle, nothing. And then once he's home, he's like, uh-oh, feeling that something came for a visit, something came home with him. So, I mean, these are entity attachments. They're not, I think of them as just being an entity that has decided they like you and they want to go hang out.
I've had
And
that.
I do work with a fair number of people like that who've had this situation occur in their life, wherever they were. And they're now dealing with trying to get, this removed out of their energy field so they can go back to having a regular peaceful day. So there's a lot of things going on in our very interesting awakening world right now.
I think what I'm hearing so much of is what you would consider haunted houses. And here in the Verde Valley area, there's a particular old pioneer cemetery in Cottonwood. And the houses that are around that, I have heard from 7 people who live surrounding that cemetery about the paranormal activity just really kicked in about a year and a half ago, and it seems to be increasing. And a lot of it's not fun poltergeist, just kind of hanging out with you. It's like things that are scaring the children, things that make them feel unsafe, scratches and bruises. And so it's interesting that cemetery can be there so long, and then all of a sudden all these people are like having this paranormal activity that just started, and they've lived in the homes for a long time. All of them have lived there for a long time. So if they had just been there, I would have thought it was kind of like the house I had in Sedona, where there was a ton of activity there, and I left and somebody new came in. Like I said, I just prayed that it would be somebody who wouldn't even notice those things going. I wouldn't feel it, see it, experience it because of their frequency. Apparently that's true because the neighbors there haven't heard anything from them. But I don't know why, other than just the thinning of the veil in general.
Now, interesting. This is not something that usually goes on when we are on camera together. There's two things consistently going on. Your voice is raising and lowering. When it goes into the low range, I can barely hear you. I can hear you, but barely. Then on the left side of the screen, you've got this sort of shadowy, dark, and then
Is it right
fades,
here?
goes back.
Right
Now,
here?
a lot of people,
Because it could be my microphone. See the microphone?
no, it's on my left side of the screen.
Oh, shoot.
Sorry.
Well, then I have no idea.
So to me, this is, I'm just saying, this is the kind of stuff that goes on in my world all the time. And my office is just fascinating. I know you have these adventures when you're working too in your
I have
office.
adventures when I'm not working. This is the reason. I've talked about this before, but the whole thing was from early childhood, similar to your experiences. Like my closet door would open, I would see shadow people, I would see these red eyes outside my bedroom window on the second floor. I would hear footsteps in the house and there's nobody. I'd get up and there's nobody around, nobody up. Voices, nobody was there. A lot of things. And that's why as soon as I was old enough to do this, I started collecting those Chariots of the Gods, In Search of Ancient Astronauts books, because there was a lot in there about paranormal, unexplained things. And I was hungry to understand what was happening for me. And my family's very conservative. They didn't want to talk, they didn't want to hear about any of that. Oh, I just saw that thing I just saw it. Now that I'm looking for that there, I just saw it right then.
I don't know if that's a YouTube thing or
No, it's not, because I feel I've got chills all over me.
an
So something's
adventure
here.
from someone who wants to drop in with us.
Yeah. So if it's not somebody connected to me and somebody of the light and my best and highest good, I'm going to ask you to leave right now. Leave my house, leave the property. But you know how this goes. Like you discuss these topics, and there's spirits who are all over it, who are like, yes, they're discussing this. Great. And then there's darker entities that really don't want you to talk about it because they'd like to just keep scaring people and have them wonder what's going on, and maybe they're going crazy. So this house, as we know, Roz helped me make sure it's a neutral space, but I don't feel like that's anything bad. I just felt like I don't need spirits in here right now. It's always something. I'm seeing a ton more of the flashing lights too, like sparks of light, which can be angels or spirits. I'm seeing the balls of light, which could be angels or spirit. Just so much going on, and white flashes, lots of white flashes, which has always for me been angelic protection. So but what is paranormal activity? It's something outside of what most people consider to be normal. And so for a lot of people, supernatural activity is paranormal activity because that's also out of the norm, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
No. So, and getting comfortable just with the terminology and realizing that, it is very simply that it is outside what most people would consider to be normal activities, normal behaviors. The people, and I do have, as I said, I have some clients that I work with on a pretty frequent basis, sometimes daily, where they have an attachment. And it's just thinking of all kinds of things to do in their home. The phone, the things that go on with people's phones are just fascinating.
Yes.
When they decide they're going to mess with your phone because it's electronic, that is an adventure.
they like to mess with my Echo, my little
Mhm.
Alexa, and I'll be in the house by myself and I'm sitting in here just typing. I'm not talking. There's no music playing, no TV. And across the house, I'll hear, I'm sorry, I don't know that word. Or I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. It's hearing somebody talking, something talking. It happens maybe once every 2 weeks. And I know somebody else that I know is experiencing something similar with that. So they can use any electronics, and boy, they sure do it a lot, don't they?
That's a really good point. And these are things that, I try to explain to people who are experiencing these things that it's not sometimes, I mean, they have no negative intention for you.
Hmm.
They're just in your frequency for whatever reason. They're in your field getting a visitor.
Yeah, something just touched me and I can feel the energy. So there's still something here. So it doesn't
Yeah,
feel dark or anything. I'm not going to worry about it, but
it doesn't feel dark.
no,
I
it's
mean, it
not.
just feels curious.
Yes.
So
Hey, these women are talking about paranormal activity. Let's pop in here.
let's drop in and chit chat.
Oh my goodness. What are the other kind of things you're seeing people reporting more lately, Roz?
Well, interestingly, there is a new app for your phone. I don't even know the name of this thing or how you install it or anything, but I'm sure it's in all the Google, Play stuff. This is some type of an app that I have seen on some of these paranormal um, television shows and on YouTube specifically, where it shows a spirit in it almost looks like a stick man. And those are actually spirits that are present in a location. And as it so happened, I was contacted by a client who was experiencing a lot of physical interaction with these spirits. And she had moved a few times. She had made effort to terminate this connection. And it was mind boggling. She got this app and she turned it on, and these spirits were just around inside her house, uh, coming to where she was, approaching her. And it was pretty funny because some of the couple of the paranormal things that I was watching, the people who were conducting the event actually spoke to these things and said, let us know you're here, give us a sign. We can see you on our phone, but we want to know that you're here. And all kinds of interesting things started taking place. So I think we're, as far as developing the technologies to move forward and to be in a position to see some of these things and to be able to register the fact that, yes, this is energy, this is really happening. All of this is moving forward, and we are seeing improvement as things advance.
It
And
is
you just
nice
have
to
to kind
have
of wonder,
scientific evidence.
huh?
It's nice to have scientific evidence. And
Yeah.
especially by all these university professors who are very respected and doing very controlled studies on many things, medium communications with the afterlife, paranormal activity, all of that. There's this whole world happening that most people are very unaware of, or things are happening and they tend to dismiss it, particularly when they're seeing something out of the corner of their eye. And so then they never develop the ability to see it straight ahead or in broad daylight because they're dismissing it. So That's why I think it's important to talk about these things, because a lot of people don't even know what falls under, what they think paranormal activity is. Things like Ghostbusters and Amityville Horror, those are some extremes, but it's little things. I mean, through the day, I cannot sit and watch TV on my sofa without the spirit wiggling my toes, and I'll feel them grab it lightly, and I'll see my toe wiggle, and I'll feel the spirit down there. I'm like, okay, that's enough of that. And it's somebody I know. It's not just some random spirit, but the little things that you might dismiss, that we need to let you know. You probably are having some paranormal experiences. And also, Roz, you mentioned something about people having attachments. I just really feel like there's millions of people with attachments right now, millions. And that's I can't even remember. I think we did do a show about what's it like, what are the signs of a dark attachment. We did do a show about that. And we have one coming up about possession, because that was requested, and I think that's another good topic people need to be aware of. But it's not all bad. I would say 80% of what I've experienced paranormal, supernatural in my lifetime has been amazing, very awe-inspiring, just things that it just sort of expands my worldview. Then there's the 20% that hasn't been so fun. And, not everyone's going to experience things like that. Thank God.
I think for those of us, I know I talk to a lot of people who are definitely undergoing a quantum leap forward in their intuitive and psychic abilities as we move, through the frequencies of the awakening and everything. And the one thing I would say is just whatever you do, realize that these things do exist. You're not going crazy like you might think you are, but also that you need to realize that you need to stay grounded and you need to stay balanced when you're experiencing this, when you're actually hearing it from another person, because you have to realize that this can happen at any time. And it's funny because some people will swear to you that these things don't exist, but in reality, they're there.
Or here we go again. As long as you don't do anything to encourage it, to any kind of dark activity, the dark will never mess with you. That's not true. That is not true. I've never done anything dark. I've never done anything to encourage this, and I've experienced it pretty much my whole life that I can remember. So is Roz, and she doesn't do anything dark. So I know plenty of people. Sometimes the people who are the brightest, the lightest, are the ones that the dark's going to try to take down. So that doesn't mean it's going to happen to you, though. For you, a lot of what you experience is probably just going to be really fascinating, make you wonder, and open your view, right? Expand your view.
It's just important to realize that you need to keep your balance within yourself with these things.
I think what's really helped me is learning to set boundaries with spirit and entities, but also learning to dispel them when I need to, and also coming to a place where I don't feel fearful very often at all. I get angry. Actually, I go into almost like a warrior mode if I feel something dark is around me, and I just blast it out of there. I don't want to get into a place of fear. I have had a couple of dark attacks in the last month, and I was almost completely asleep, and I just felt something change in the energy. And I opened my eyes, and over towards the window where it should have been the brightest, there was pitch black dark moving towards my bed, moving over the bed and then over to the right. And it was starting to, as I busted it up, I told my daughter it broke into these little black feathery shapes. millions of feathery shapes and then finally dissipated. And it's happened a couple times recently. So, you know, you don't have to just like watch the show. You don't have to just experience it. If something doesn't feel good, get rid of it. But if it feels fine to you, I say, let it happen. Let it see what's going on and keep a journal and write down I like to write the date, the time, and what I experienced. And I have decades of these journals. My daughter's always said two things. Mom, you could be the next Stephen King if you just expanded some of the stories in your journals from your experiences. And the other thing was, Mom, you need to take all your paranormal stuff out of that book and write a book. And I probably should. I probably should.
And you did.
Not about that. Not about that. But I'm going to work on it. I'm going to work on it. But
many other books out there.
Your book and my book, we might be talking about paranormal things, but mine is about how angels help me survive some of the things that paranormal, supernatural things that have happened to me. And like my journey to get strong, my journey to step into a spiritual warrior mode. But we all have different experiences and we all process it differently. And depending on what your path is, how you're supposed to use that is differently. I don't know. What do you think most people are supposed to do with their paranormal experiences, Roz?
Wait, you cut out right at the end.
That's weird. What do you think most people are supposed to do with their paranormal experiences? What's the point?
I think the point is kind of reminding us, awakening us that, you know, we have a tendency to kind of get in this little comfort zone in our world and pretend that nothing else exists. That there isn't the world of physics going on around us with all these other energies and presences. And, you know, one thing that really comes to mind for me is how a couple of years ago we had suddenly appear in our skies a very different kind of spacecraft. And scientists, first they were saying, no, you know, it's just it's not a spacecraft. But the more they talked, the more they began to discuss this. And it was called a Mora, I think.
What does it look like?
It looks like a rock.
Oh, interesting. There's a thing like that
in and I was fascinated because I thought, now here's an amazing, you know, situation going on.
Saying.
So here's a classic case, and this happened to be UFO oriented, but definitely outside the normal. Even scientists kind of freaking out about what was this? What is this? How is it you can tell that it's not just floating through space, that it's being directed? And it came into, you know, our sphere around the Earth. And then it kind of went off. And people never did I hear anyone say, oh, you know, yeah, well, this is obviously some kind of paranormal event. Finally, at the end, people started getting it. But it was pretty funny because when I think about you and I and all the things that have gone on in our life and that continue to go on, we just have to rock and roll with that and accept it and realize that all these things, you know, here's one event that's occurring. People are freaking out. But the reality is these paranormal things go on all the time in all kinds of different circumstances.
They do. And we probably should drill down deeper in some episodes of specific kind of paranormal supernatural activity because there is so much. And too much to really address in a half-hour episode, but it's been so fun to talk about it today. And I know a lot of our listeners are going to be all over this because they love it when we talk about these topics, and we enjoy talking about it. So we really appreciate you tuning in today, being here with us. If you want to know more about us, our services, please visit our website, sedonasoulsisters.com. Subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss anything. Like it to put a smile on our face. And tune in next Friday when the topic is trusting your gifts. And that's about, like, you have a spiritual gift, but you want to do something with it, but you are not trusting what you get, whether that is psychic, mediumship, empath, healing, whatever it may be. So we're going to talk about how to get you there to the point where you feel more trust and security in your gifts and with the information you get. And in the meantime, we hope you have an enlightening week.
Have fun.